All right, history made once again. You're locked on UConn, special live edition.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to a special live edition of Locked On UConn. I'm just in awe of this team. 5 season-ending injuries, an incredible performance by Paige Beckers, but also Aaliyah Edwards. She stepped up big. 24 points, 6 rebounds, a block. But Paige doing what she does, she's the queen. And I feel like she came back for her crown, and she's really going to have an opportunity to cement her legacy going forward here, with an opportunity against, all eyes are going to be on that game, 9 o'clock this coming Friday in Cleveland against, the media darling, Caitlin Clark. And I'm not even going to talk about Caitlin Clark today, or this little 25 minute stream. Just an incredible performance by the team. I loved the minutes they got out of Nika Mule, Ice Brady. God, and I'll be completely honest with this Locked On UConn crowd. I grew up watching mostly the men, but the women have been so incredible. Like, they're just, it's over the years as I've gotten older, you basically have no choice but to kind of just marvel at how good this team has been. And I think also as a guy, just to be completely fair, you just get more mature to realize that this is a great brand of basketball. I don't think it always has been, not the UConn women specifically, but women's basketball in general. But the state of the women's game is in a great spot, and I've been loving every second of it. In particular, it's also been kind of cool to see the role reversal of every great story has the comeback, right? It's hard to have a Hollywood movie that you love that everything goes right for the main character. So to have a little adversity with this UConn women's basketball team in this program is rare. So the idea that they would come in as a 3 seed and have this nice run with a woman in Paige Beckers who's coming back from injury, who's having an incredible season. She have 28, 10, and 6 today with 3 steals, 2 blocks. It's ridiculous. Playing only 7 players. Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Beckers, and Nika Mule didn't come off the court. Played all 40 minutes. And a lot of the minutes that Nika played and Aaliyah played was with 4 fouls. So some really great basketball. I thought Gino did a good job down the stretch of kind of shortening the game. Who am I to talk about the Hall of Fame coach? He's forgot more basketball than I could remember. But he's just, he's the best. And I think that's where they're going to have this edge. I don't know if they can. I think they can beat Iowa, because I think I was watching the game before, and I said I wasn't going to talk about Caitlin Clark, but how do you not look ahead to that matchup on Friday? I think there's this incredible, and it will be an incredible want to look at this and go, well, this is Paige versus Caitlin. It is the same way that was Juju Watkins against Paige there, but the reality is Paige did what Paige does. Juju Watkins did what she did. She almost had an identical game to Paige outside of the assist. She had 29, 10, and 2 and 2 blocks that mirrored each other. So it was. But then you come down to the X's and O's and which coaches step up in tournament play. Having a guy like Gino and having this, incredible experience on this team, I think can carry them past Iowa. Caitlin Clark, is she going to go for 40? Maybe, but it's the other players that stepped up who escape me at the moment, names wise. Sorry, guys, it's almost midnight. But I think for me, that's the difference. I think Paige trusts Aaliyah. She trusts, Anika Mule. She trusts the players on her team to give her some good minutes and not always shoot threes and also like pull up when she needs to. But yeah, this has just been a really cool run for them, and it's awesome. I got some comments in the thing. I like this one. We deserved at least one Beckers versus Clark. I think that's true, Jacob. I think women's basketball is so fortuitous right now. There's so many good storylines. You got the Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark and that LSU team that won a national championship. And then again, you have on the other side of the bracket, you have an upstart NC State team. It's always had a good history with South Carolina, undefeated, looking for revenge. Another story, that we talked about redemption. That team went undefeated, lost in the semis last year to LSU, I believe. I think they just said that on the broadcast tonight. So they're going to be coming out guns blazing, and that team is very good. But let's just enjoy this. I think this is a really cool opportunity for UConn to win a national championship when it's not expected. We've had a few of those on the men's side. I think more than what has been expected. If we go ahead and win on the men's side this year, I think you could split them right down the middle. I think 3-3 would be. I'm sorry. Jacob also said Brady and Samuels gave some big minutes today. That's true. I also tweeted this out at what time was it at? I'll look at my X account. Let's see if some people picked it up. I said, has there ever been an opportunity for it to be the same men's and women's finals? With it being UConn on one side of the bracket, NC State on the other, on both sides. I think I think both are long shots, but that would be amazing for both of these fan bases. I think it's the first time in history that both men and women's teams have been to the Final Four at the same time. And Jacob, man, where have you been? Come to get on this show more often. Imagine if we get NC State versus UConn men and women. I think it'd be really cool. I think there's just something about when both teams make it. We've done it multiple times. If anyone knows in the chat how many times UConn men and women have both been to the Final Four at the same time, I know we've won once. I think I'm saying that correctly. Maybe it's 2014. I'm wrong about that. Someone can correct me. How many times have UConn men and women won a national title? Did it twice. That's right. God, I'm getting old, guys. 43 is coming fast approaching, and my memory is fading. UConn is another school that can have dual teams in the Final Four this season, which they've already done, and it's still the only school, the only school to have both teams win national championships in the same year, which they achieved twice in 2004 and 2014. It's another year ending in 4, so we're looking pretty good. Really cool opportunity for them to do it a third time. And then people get I'm telling you, man, Jacob, do you want to be on my Jacob, you got to DM me and get on my show every once in a while. This kid's on point, man. That's right. But yeah, I think there's a really cool opportunity for them to do it again. Tougher road for the women. I think UConn men are, as we've seen, pretty inevitable. But again, I love the juxtaposition of both. Let's see. Jerome Danielson. Wow, I was wrong about the women. Didn't expect them to beat USC, and the women and men have won twice. Thank you for that. Nothing wrong with being wrong, man. I'm wrong every day, and that's okay. It's just part of When people have opinions, they're guaranteed they're going to be wrong at some point. No one's right all the time. But yeah, this is a really cool time for Connecticut sports. I'm just really enamored with all of this. We even have I was on a line I cast to kind of do a cross pollination for the Elite Eight with a really cool host, Sonny. He had me on and didn't give them much hope, and then that turned out to be true. He posted here really quickly in the chat that he comes in peace. Hope you all lay waste to Purdue. We will, don't worry, or NC State will. One of the two, either DJ Burns or Donovan Clingan will. But he sent me a funny post in his just on Twitter. He said, apparently basketball is a sport where 10 people run around the court and in the end UConn wins. It does seem like that. I had a long time ago, like probably the first week I started doing shows, that Cy Alexander is a good friend of mine, 400 wins on the men's college basketball side, nothing to sneeze at. He brought up how incredible it is to have both of these programs. And he's the first one on the show to kind of talk about the basketball capital of the world. I wonder if anyone knows this in the chat. Again, I don't know this. Who created that phrase? Was it a marketing thing at UConn? Was it something that someone said? My time of watching these teams, I remember the Rebecca Lobo teams all the way back. I remember, we're going to shock the world, Khalid El-Amin, who Jim Calhoun get a nice little shout out to Rip, and I can't say the word he used. Did Jacob saying Hurley is the one who made up the basketball capital of the world? That can't be right, is it? I mean, he's only been around for really. I mean, I feel like I'm only talking to Jacob here in the chat, but yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any questions for me, I'll answer them in the chat. I'll put the question up, and whether it's predictions on either side. But I just wanted to jump on for 20, 25 minutes and just react to this win because my wife and I were watching, and it was just such a great gutty performance, and it's just a really cool time to be a Husky fan. Just a quick programming note for tomorrow. We're doing a cross-pollination or cross-reference show with Locked On Bama. The guys do a good job there. They have a pretty big show, obviously, with how good the Alabama football team is, but it's their first ever Final Four. So we're going to take it easy on them and really kind of talk to them about what we do and what to expect at the Final Four. Although what we don't want to have happen is what happened to us, which is in our very first Final Four, we won it all, which is what we tend to do. We get to, for the women and the men, get to the Final Four and you win it all. Don't let us get to the final because I think I don't even know how many losses we've had, but I don't think there is any losses. We've lost in the Final Four before, both the men and the women. I think this was a question. Sensational. Huh. Let's see. Preference: UConn, NC State, or UConn, Purdue? If anyone doesn't know this already, I live in North Carolina. I was born and raised in Meriden, Connecticut, lived in New Haven and in Guilford, Connecticut for a while, moved to New York, and then eventually moved down south. Now, NC State fans down here, no matter what they say this week, if they get to the final and they play UConn, let them talk whatever delusional smack they're going to talk. Because this program, I know they've won national championships. For some, no one ever saw. I mean, they won in '83. I feel like they won another one. But either way, that's the famous Jim Valvano one. This program is smack dab in the middle of two blue bloods with Duke and Carolina. And they always get the little brother short end of the stick treatment. So for them to outlast both and also beat one to get to the Final Four, if they play in a final, just let them, as they say, let them live, right? Or let them cook. Just let them cook. Let them cook for for a week or two or whatever it is, because I would prefer to see Purdue, because I'd love to put this whole narrative to rest that Purdue had, number one, had a better resume because they were in the Big Ten. We've laid to waste 2 Big Ten teams already. I also think that Zach Edey and Devin Klingon matchup would be epic. I also think you would see why Donovan Klingon, as high as number 3 in a draft, a mock draft for, I think, NBA Draft Express, which is an ESPN platform. Saw that today, and I was like, wow, this run that they're making has really kind of made him some money and really kind of got his profile up. So any hopes of him coming back is not happening, guys. If he's a top 5 pick, I mean, there's conversations with him potentially going number 1. I'm not a draft expert. I see the potential, and I know what he looks like. So just finish the job first, and then we'll talk about that second. Jacob also put in the chat about the women have lost 1 final and the men have not lost any. That's true, right? 5-0 in finals, 5-1 in the Final Four. So also, yes, I would give a ton of respect. I would hate to lose to NC State in a final on either side. But if NC State does kind of a full mirror of what Kemba Walker and that 11 team did, I mean, just tip your cap to them, because that's just the ultimate heater, right? We'll see what happens. This question is, do you think all 5 starters go pro for the men this year? Let's look at that really quick. It's a very interesting question. Steph Castle, definitely. Tristan Newton, I mean, he's got to go, right? So let's kind of go one by one. Let me pull them up. Not that I don't know who they are already, but so I've also, just to offer this question, I've also had people in my YouTube mention say to me, I don't think Steph is ready. I don't think Donovan Klingon's ready, et cetera, et cetera. I'll address this again one more time. The NBA doesn't draft on where you are today. They draft on where you'll be tomorrow for the future. But yes, those two are definitely NBA players. Also have to remember, guys, both Steph and Donovan came to UConn knowing that they were going to play a role. They didn't get the reins. This isn't, for those of you old enough to remember, this isn't Allen Iverson getting the ball from John Thompson and saying, do whatever you want, shoot. You have the green light. Do you think if Steph Castle went to USC or Illinois, for example, and a team, no disrespect to Illini Cast who jumped on the show really quick, or Kentucky, I'm trying to think of another program that kind of lacks discipline that probably should do better recently. Memphis, let's just use Memphis. Penny Hardaway is a great recruiter. He gets a ton of talent. If you put Steph Castle on Memphis, he'd average 20 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds a game. Easily. Just on drives to the basket. He's making every free throw. He's an 80% free throw shooter now. Just on his physicality alone, and then his improved shooting and hit 1 or 2 threes a game, the kid would be a 20-10 guy all day. And his draft stop, and people would finally go, oh, wow, he actually is a lottery pick. The reason why he's not showing that now is he doesn't have to be. So let's go back to that question. So Klingon and Steph, yes. Tristan is definitely going to get drafted, but I think he goes second round. I think Alex is going to get a draft evaluation that he's going to not be disappointed with. That's going to make sense to him. And I think he stays. I think he stays one more year because he is, as he's called, the brain center. And I think he's going to make a smart decision. And if that turns out to be that he goes pro because they say you're going to be a late first rounder, early second, and he's okay with that, like Andre Jackson, then do it. God bless him, man. I love Alex Karaban. Whatever Alex Karaban wants to do, I am here for it. So I'd be fine with that. So then you have Tristan. I think is going to get drafted second round. So maybe late first. I think there's the only thing I agreed with Stan Van Gundy on the last broadcast, because he annoyed the hell out of me, was Tristan's ball handling can be suspect at times. I don't know if that's just his personality, because he's pretty laid back, but you can get at it, and we've seen it at times before when he gets a little lazy. I think that's just a focus thing. And then Cam, right? Yeah, Mr. Nobody just said this. This is where I totally agree. Karaban comes back, but if he don't, I wish him the best and thank him for everything. Absolutely. Spot on. Yeah, I think listen, Cam can 100% be an NBA player. I don't think he gets drafted. I think he actually will sign a two-way with a team that likes his competitiveness. And let's be honest, guys, if he wants to, you make good money going overseas. I used to cover mid-major basketball here in North Carolina. UNCG had a great UNC Greensboro, if no one knows. UNCG was a good mid-major program. It was led by Wes Miller, who's a friend of mine, who's now at Cincinnati. I know UConn fans hate Cincinnati. I hated Cincinnati until Wes went there, and now I have a soft spot, and I watch their games sometimes too. But that's here nor there. He recruited a kid at UNCG called Francis Alonso. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's one of the best shooters I've ever seen, and he's from Malaga, Spain. He's now playing for that club there. He makes a lot of money. If Cam wants to go travel Europe and play in the EuroLeague, he would be beloved for his intensity, for his attention to detail, his shooting and his defense and his quick hands. All this, he's clever with the ball. It's all silliness. If he was somebody else, they'd say, "Oh wow, look how athletic he is." Now, I don't think Cam is super fast, but I think again, that's all kind of BS coded language sometimes for me. But yeah, I think Cam couldn't go pro, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be in the NBA. It's a big world out there, guys. The NBA is not the end all be all. It's the highest level of basketball, but there's a reason why when the Olympics happen, Spain's really good, Argentina. There's some guys that I know, that play overseas that have made a living, and then they come back here and they, take the money that they make there and they invest in it and stuff like that. So nothing wrong with that. I think that's what the route that Cam will go. But I'm going to jump off here in like about a minute or two. Really appreciate you guys jumping on. I didn't expect this many people to be on it after midnight, but again, I was a little too jacked up to go to bed here, and I thought I'd put on an extra pod and just another history made. This is the 23rd Final Four for the women. 23rd Final Four, going for their 12th national championship. Amazing. That was their 28th Elite Eight. Insane. Just shows the level of dominance they had for such a long period of time. What was I going to say? My guys here. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate the in the chat here. They're going and giving me some love. Special thanks to David Benedict for coming on, the AD of UConn. That was really a fun interview. Very candid. I was expecting one thing, and I got a really great version of who I believe he is at his core. So it was really cool to talk to him about the program and how the NIL is working, and some of his thoughts on that. So it'd be great. Also, we were supposed to have Ricky Moore on this week of our 1999 Final Four team on the men's side. If people don't know this, Ricky is an associate head coach or assistant head coach at North Carolina A&T, also here in Greensboro, and so we got connected. They're recruiting. He's got transfer portal guys coming in to talk about stuff. So we're gonna wait till after the season. I'd love to do like a 2-part hour podcast with him about that 99 season. So going to take my time with that one 100%. So we'll get that to you guys sometime soon. We have one more question before I jump off. What's your question, my guy? Go ahead. I'll wait until we get that one more question, and then we're going to jump. But yeah, I think I'm a little surprised at how much the women won by. I thought, because it was a pretty close game, and they made a, in the, I think it got tied at 64, and then UConn kind of put the pedal to the metal there, stepped on their necks, and it was great to see. I was making myself a late dinner, and it was cool ending. Anyone have any more questions? Yeah, Ricky Moore played the game of his life on that national championship game. No, don't you know it? I'll be talking to him about that for sure. All right, this is the question before I go. Watch some film on ED. Seems to repeat 2 post moves. Do you think Klingon's quickness and his size are going to be a problem? I think it is. Thanks for answering. Yeah, I agree. I think you're spot on. I think if you sit on his left shoulder, force him to not kind of turn and kind of pin you. So if like he's posting up and you're on this side, for him to not like turn his whole like front body so he can do his little patented jump hook. I also think Zach hasn't faced a guy like Donovan. Donovan, I mean, I guess did actually, should I say that? Did Purdue play Kansas this year? I mean, Hunter Dickinson's at the minimum 7-2. Does anyone know that? I think they played him in Maui. Am I wrong? Maybe, I don't think they did. Yeah, I don't think Zach played Hunter in this season. So they may have played before, but this year, this version of Zach Edey has not faced a guy like Donovan, because at 7'3", he's only an inch shorter than Zach. He only is giving up, I think, about 15, 20 pounds. His quickness, to Mr. Nobody's point, is going to be the difference maker there. And don't discount how big DJ Burns is. He's not as tall. But I'm telling you, man, like Zach Randolph style skills. And you're right. Hunter Dickinson does not play defense, but there's just something psychological, man. If you and I are playing one-on-one and I'm a foot taller than you, it's easy pickings. You know what I mean? Like, but if you and I are the same height, or I mean, I'm only a couple inches taller than you, I have to think about things a little bit. There's just a different psychology there. I think that they almost, I feel like they'll end up canceling each other out. So if Zach Edey has like a normal game, like a 20-10 game for a guy that size, I think UConn goes and wins pretty easily, because you factor in all the other aspects of this team. And is Purdue one of the best? I think it's the best 3-point shooting team in the country. They are, but that's because people double Zach Edey. We don't need to. What are you going to double him for? Unless Donovan gets in foul trouble. That's the problem, because Zach Edey gets a very, very healthy whistle. But listen, guys, I'm going to jump. I need to get some sleep, and so I can start up and do this all over again tomorrow. Really appreciate you guys' comments. Tune in tomorrow. We're recording a podcast with the Bama guys at 11. It should be out around noon Eastern time. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to call it a day, and really appreciate who dropped in for a surprise live podcast. Peace.